Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Really glad to have you join us today. My name is Chirag Suri, and I'm the marketing manager at BatchMaster. So last month, we touched upon how BatchMaster ERP, streamlines formulation and product development process. And today, we're going to talk about batch production, specifically, how a production manager, runs the end-to-end production process digitally and what, modern batch production actually looks like in practice. We're gonna do that, through the lens of a real production day, the kind, your team is probably already living. And so I think without any further delay, let's get started. Here's the quick agenda for today. So we're going to start with the challenges that come with batch production, the things, that typically slow teams down when processes are not connected, along with some batch production key concepts. From there, we're going to get into how BatchMaster, actually changes the way batch production works. And then Dipesh, who is a senior solutions consultant, will take over for a live demonstration to show you the end-to-end process inside BatchMaster ERP. Then we're going to close out with a Q&A. So please keep dropping your questions in the chat as we go along. Okay, so for this session, let's assume, Alex is a guy, he's basically a production manager at a specialty food company, where they make sauces, marinades, and dressings. He's managing, say, 3 production lines, 15 operators, and anywhere, between 6 to 8 batches running every single day. He's supposed to keep, production on schedule, and he wants to stay compliant. But he's also, the first call when anything goes wrong on the floor. It all, lands on Alex if any batch gets delayed, any ingredient is short, or a QC test fails. And here's the bad thing, he's working off paper batch logs, Excel spreadsheets, and a system, that doesn't have the production control, or I would say, process manufacturing capabilities he actually needs. As we go through this today's session, I think a lot of what he's dealing with is going to, feel very familiar. So let's take a look at, what a typical day looks like for him, starting with some of the challenges. So first, he has no single view of all his running batches. There is no live dashboard or a central picture that, he has to chase supervisors, he has to check paper logs or, making some phone calls. Second, whenever a batch needs to be resized, it's like a lot of time, doing some manual math in spreadsheet. There is no automatic way for him, to resize batches, and that usually, takes time and may lead to errors. Thirdly, Alex doesn't know what's actually on hand until, someone physically goes and checks. And by the time they do, the production may already have been started. The next one is, SOPs might be, living in physical binders, which means they are outdated the moment, something changes, and there is no way to enforce that operators, are actually following them. And lastly, quality failures, they get discovered, after the damage is already done. A batch, goes out of spec and nobody catches it until it's too late. That obviously means more rework, more waste, or I would say worse, a compliance issue. So these are some of the problems that come up, when your systems or tools are not designed for process manufacturing. Now, moving on, a lot of, manufacturers we talk to, they basically are running on generic ERP systems that are built for assembling parts. And they have tried to make it work for process manufacturing, but there's always a ceiling to how far you can stretch a general purpose system. So let's talk about what those systems simply cannot do. They cannot back compute batch yield from a limited ingredient. Like, for example, if you're short on a key raw material, you need to know exactly how much finished product you can make from what you have. And a generic system won't be able to do that. They cannot enforce SOPs step by step inside the production workflow. The SOP might exist somewhere else, but there's nothing stopping an operator from skipping a step. They cannot trigger a real-time QC hold the moment, specs are breached, by the time, someone catches it, the batch has already moved on. They cannot auto allocate raw material lots by, different rules like first in, first out, last in, first out, first expiry, first out, which obviously is a big deal, when you are dealing with expiry dates and lot traceability. Generic systems, they cannot generate a complete audit-ready electronic batch record. So you're pulling records from multiple places and, hoping nothing's get missed. They cannot link dependent batch stages so that, if one stage slips, the rest of the schedule adjusts automatically. And they cannot, backflush raw material consumption when a batch closes. So your inventory numbers are always lagging behind reality. So in a nutshell, generic ERPs, and they are built for assembling parts and not for blending formulas. And that difference, really matters more than, most people realize. Moving on, let's, understand what changes for the production manager with BatchMaster ERP. So like I said before, the production manager can use the multi-batch dashboard or any custom production dashboard to see live updates to all the running batches. There is a dynamic batch resizing feature in BatchMaster that allows production manager, to easily add any constraint, and the system, back computes every ingredient quantity in real time without the need, to do it manually in a spreadsheet. With BatchMaster, you can also do smart raw material allocation, where the system, automatically allocates lots based on different rules. It can, flag shortages before production starts and even suggest some substitutions. SOPs, they are embedded directly into the batch in BatchMaster. Your operators, can follow them step by step inside the system, and every step, gets electronically signed with full version control visibility. We also, include in-process quality checkpoints where the system, triggers an alert instantly the moment, something goes out of sprint. Next, let's quickly see how, a typical batch production actually works. So just think about, how Alex makes the hot sauce. It's not a single step, but he's making, he's first making a base, then that goes into the final formula, and then, it gets filled onto the bottles. So each of those has its own batch job with its own specs, equipment, and a planned yield. So Alex knows before the line even starts how much he expects to get out of each stage. Now, those jobs don't run independently as they are linked. The schedule, works backwards from when, the finished product needs to be ready. And each stage, starts based on what comes after it. And if something slips in the middle, it's say, for example, the base takes longer than planned, the rest of the schedule, adjusts on its own automatically. That's what we call, a super batch in BatchMaster. And as all of this is happening, everything is being captured automatically, whether it's the lot numbers, expiry dates, how much raw material was consumed. It all, flows into the electronic batch record in real time. So you don't, need to maintain any paper logs or any manual entries. Now, there's, one more thing I want to cover, and that's, the electronic batch record or the EBR. A lot of, manufacturers we talk to, they are still, are reconstructing batch records after the fact, where they are, pulling paper logs, they are chasing down operators and, piercing things together. And EBR, is fundamentally different, where, everything is captured in real time as the batch is running. So every lot, every SOP step, every QC result, all in one record. And because BatchMaster, supports 21 CFR Part 11 electronic signatures, every step is signed off digitally as it happens. All these, results in making you audit ready in 30 seconds instead of, taking a lot of days. I would say just think from the production manager perspective, like if an FDA auditor, calls and needs complete production records, say for a hot sauce batch from several months ago, with, traditional generic systems or, manual methods, that would typically be like a 2-day exercise for Alex. You're calling, night shift, you're digging through filing cabinets and hoping the paper logs are complete. But with BatchMaster, Alex can pull the full EBR in seconds, and that EBR has everything, every lot, every step, every signature, and the entire audit is done in 20 minutes. So that's the difference an EBR makes in a day-to-day life of a production manager. Moving on, so this slide really brings Alex's entire day into focus. So if you look at what's happening on the left side, he's walking in every morning, already behind, spending the first hour of his day, just trying to figure out where things stand. Then raw material questions eat into the production time. A batch resize derails the mid-morning. A quality issue goes unnoticed for hours, and then an audit request turns into a 2-day fire drill. Now if you look at the right side, it's the same day, same responsibilities, but the difference is that Alex is not chasing information anymore. The information is already there for him, and he can use it whenever he wants. That's really what BatchMaster changes for Alex. How he actually spends his day now, how much headspace he has to focus on running production instead of managing chaos on the production floor. All right, I think this brings to the point where I would like to hand it over to Dipesh, who will give us a walkthrough of how batch production process actually looks like inside the BatchMaster system. So Dipesh, over to you.
So, in order to streamline production and being able to optimize manufacturing, planning starts with a bill of material, like a product structure, where you define what you're making, how you're making it, when you're going to make it, what equipments are, and their capacities can make it. And then with these definitions and configurations, you start to rely on the system to tell you how to execute that in a best possible way. So in today's session, we'll cover this in a couple of different ways, but let's start with a product structure like a bill of material. So what you see on my screen is an end product. It's a final product, finished product. So we are saying here that it's a case of apple muffin, and it has 10 pieces of apple muffins in it. But in order to make a box of that apple muffin, I need finished muffins. So these are what is represented as a finished good, finished muffin, 4 ounces, and such 10 units, 10 pieces of 4 ounces go in an empty box and other packaging components. But in order to make those, you'll be able to see that it requires and it goes through some process, some operation steps of making an apple strudel, along with some raw materials, help me make my apple muffins or the dough for apple muffin. And all these are in different proportion, different unit of measures. As you expand these, you'll see apple strudel itself is made up of some additional raw materials here. So it's a mix of raw materials with different proportions, unit of measures. And underneath that is what the formula is being defined. And also, while I'm on this screen, you'll note that our system supports multi-level bill of material. So any operation steps that you have and you want to account for those operation steps, you can define your product structures respectively within the system. And with that, all those formulations that are underlying that product structure, like the bill of material, is what your R&D team can define them on our formulation screen or the R&D screen, basically. And a formula in BatchMaster is a mix of raw materials, manufacturing instructions, and these manufacturing instructions could be HACCP procedures, be able to capture critical control points, or it could be specific instructions that are specific to these formula, may not be applicable for any other formula. As you start to incorporate these raw materials to be a part of your formula, they can be added by absolute quantity. So your R&D team has flexibility to input the formula by quantity, by weight percentage, by volume percentage. What I'm using here is a food example. I can bring up a couple other examples as well based on different industries as well. So, our system is intelligent enough to understand weight to weight, volume to volume conversions. But if you were to stock these inventory items in weight or volume, our system uh, is would require specific gravity or density. It's something that you can go ahead and define them into our system at the item level. And from there on, our system can let you utilize these ingredients in any desired unit of measures that you need. As you add these raw ingredients, system auto computes weight, volume, total raw material cost. And as I was referring earlier, that being a food example, but let's say if it be more for nutraceutical industries, then the entire uh, formulation changes based off of label claims, claim quantity, claim unit of measures, potency, overage percentages. And then all that forms the basis of supplement fact panels for food industries, nutritional fact panels, and then also allows you to do reverse engineer to have your optimum formulation. For paint and coating industries, these are all the equations, properties that are inbuilt within our system. And along with that, for personal care industries as well, utilizes the same form to set up the formula to do your R&D process, and then also has ability to provide geographical restrictions. So we do cater different industries, and the same form uh, can be implemented based on what industry you're working through. Having said that, let's navigate into the core intent of this webinar, where it was about production. So far we talked about packaging specification, formula specification. All that information can be rolled up, and it gets rolled up onto a manufacturing order, which is the basis, which is the foundation of your production. So the formula, the bill of material specifications get rolled up, giving you a baseline of total weight, total volume, what equipment it should be made, when to start, when to end. And there are underlying information associated to all these, where it starts to account for what amount of quantity is needed, accounting line level losses or process level losses. Uh, so on the formula tab here, you'll see that the formula has come through exactly as it was defined as a part of your bill of material. So the raw materials, the labor codes, all your HACCP procedures, manufacturing instructions, everything is on this on your manufacturing order. Now, one can create these manufacturing orders from a variety of different sources. So at this point, I'm going to take a pause and then navigating to those different options that trigger or you can automate creating these manufacturing orders. Let's say you have a customer demand, which is a direct demand, and for companies who are primarily make to customer order, this is one of the tool that helps them automate their manufacturing process. So all the orders that needs to be fulfilled within respective delivery dates, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on your production lead time, uh, the production planners can review all these orders. So all the customer orders, what products have been ordered, quantities, dates, these are the delivery dates. And then one can pick and choose the ones that needs to be transferred to production batches. During that process, one can also let system look into what raw materials and packaging components you have. If you have enough quantity, if you don't have enough quantity, then it can generate a purchase requisition that goes through approval process. But let's say if you have enough inventory that you can go ahead and release these production batches, then those lot numbers that you have in your inventory can be allocated automatically based on issue method, which are first in, first out, last in, first out, first expiry, first out, or partial bags. So it can auto assign those lot numbers as well. But this is one of the automated tools where you can automate creating production batches. Uh, for customers where things are hybrid, make to order and make to inventory, we do have two different options. One is an essential planning option, which is demand supply inquiry, that allows you to inquire for anything that you buy or anything that you manufacture. And that can be done to a certain end date, and that could be just in time, which is you're inquiring just in time, or it could be a future date. So let's say all the way through September 30th, I want my system to tell me what I have to make and what I have to buy. Looking into my inventory levels, what current on hand stock I have, or what and show me only the ones that I'm falling short of. Applying these filters, like these criterias for inventory items, whether it is make or buy item, it's going to just narrow down the entire inquiry to that specific item product that you are inquiring about. Or if you leave them open, essentially you're telling system and logically to look into every possible inventory item that needs to be purchased or it needs to be manufactured. As you tap on that inquiry, that analysis is done by the system, giving you that this is what uh, system thinks you should be buying, you should be making. As you open this node, it starts to look into what you have in stock, and then in line to dates, it starts to lay out the plan of having all these supply, these demand, and does a mathematical calculation that summarizes all that detail into a positive number or a negative number. A positive number is a visual clue to planner that uh, you have enough quantity that can meet any customer demand uh, coming your way, or you meet any projected numbers that you have planned for. If this number be a negative number, is would be a visual clue to planners to create production batches and generate them with a push of button. Likewise, for buyers, same inquiry, where for raw materials and the packaging components, they'll be able to generate purchase requisitions as well. Now, from the planner's aspect, when they generate these production batches, all those will be reflected on the batch ticket, like they do from transfer sales orders to production batches. The second option that we have is more sophisticated time fenced planning option, where system looks into different planning horizons of forecast, customer orders, warehouse transfers, in and out, and then also look into supply, and then recommends what needs to be made. All those recommendations planners can review and then turn them into a production batch as well. So there are different ways to create production batches within our system. Any source that you choose, manual or essential planning options or time fence planning options, it would reflect production batches on batch ticket screen, which is the foundation of production. Now, when these production batches are determined to create, when it gets to when it gets to execute these batches, you'll be able to see that one can go ahead and size these production batches by weight, by volume, by finished good that was ordered that you may have initially planned for. But the key takeaways are to size your production batches based on limited ingredients that you may have. May be that one ingredient is committed to multiple production batches and you have available quantities and want to know what amount of finished good can be made. So it could be based on availability or based on what you have, like in stock, quantity of one material. So, and then system can back compute what amount of finished good can be made. So these sizing options make possible for system to automatically account for any shortages and then size the quantity required, the amount of quantity that you may have planned for, which is the finished good or the intermediate that you're planning to make for. Uh, what you see here is quantity required is what system wants you to use based on the standard formula, accounting, line level, and process level losses. Actual quantity is something that can be either user input if it is a paper-based operation, or if you want to go electronic like barcode scanning, then these numbers do get automatically populated based on our manufacturing execution system that one can utilize on a scanning gun or a touch tablet. And then it syncs all those numbers from that touch device into these actual quantity. And the differences between actual quantity and quantity required goes into variance account. Now, from the supervisor's aspect, when they are reviewing these production batches, they can go ahead and remove line items, they can add line items, they can, based on availability of the materials, they can look into alternate items to be able to substitute. Any changes that one can do on these manufacturing orders, or let's say on this formula, on this manufacturing ticket, All that information is retained without causing to have revisions to your original formulation. Uh, you can uh, One can also allocate uh, batches. So what system does in this aspect is it looks into the rules that are assigned at the item level. And these are like lot issue methods to production batches. Whether system should look into first in, first out, first expiry, first out, last in, first out, or partial bags. And then the system happens to recommend you those. But supervisors can review what appropriate lot numbers are in inventory, review what system recommended, and may want to override what system recommended with something different. Maybe this lot number, maybe this is expiring first. So may want to utilize this lot number as a priority. And then with these reviews, one can go ahead and generate uh, picking documentation that your material handlers can start to stage all the materials from storage location to staging location for production purposes, and for operators to utilize those from the staging material from the staging zone basically. Now, in order to execute those, one can generate paper documentation like a pick list with barcoded information to tell them what ingredients they should look for, what lot numbers, what area they should look for, and what operating line they should be bringing all those, or what staging room they should be bringing all those ingredients to. Pick by, signed by. But if all these needs to be electronically executed, our system has that capability, and that can be done based off of WMS application. So on my screen is our WMS application that runs on any touch device. It could be a warehouse gun, a tablet, anything that can connect to internet, because you can see it's a web browsed application, and it can support any warehouse gun depending on your needs like ruggedness, dust, temperature, and we can recommend when we get to next phases of the discussion. Now, as a result of all the lot numbers were reviewed, production managers can generate picking documents that can be assigned to certified users. And primarily, we are going to focus on MES, which is Manufacturing Execution System. Uh, no wonder that utilizing this WMS application, your warehouse team users can perform other activities as well, like receiving purchase orders, fulfilling orders to your customers, moving inventory within the warehouse or externally as well to your third party warehouses, do cycle counting, physical counting, have directed information from system where to put away certain ingredients, certain finished goods based on the constraints or limited space within the facility. Now, as you tap on MES, you have variety of different options to perform where you can pick and stage all the products in the weighing room and then electronically execute them using EBT, which is electronic batch ticket. Now, this is where material handlers navigate into to production picking and the pick list that they have assigned with. Either it is barcoded, you can scan them, or they can tap to look into what pick list has been assigned for the day. And then based on what they are working on, they can scan, or uh, they can choose the pick list that they are going to work on. And based off of that is what one can start navigating into next step of the process, where they can see what all needs to be picked and staged. And this is where systems recommends these are the lot numbers they should be looking for in this storage location in the warehouse. And as they navigate further, it could be a partial bag that needs to be picked, or it could be a whole bag or box. So, are these configurations at the item level that one can do? And then you can tell system that all these ingredient needs to be picked into certain pack unit of measures, bags, boxes, or partial quantities. You can set up those preferences, and then you choose the lot numbers what system is recommending. But if you were to override those lot numbers, system gives you that ability as well. So if there were multiple lot numbers, I could have chosen a different lot number to stage for my production. So these are all based off what you configure within the system and how your manufacturing processes are operated. As you make those pallets or lot numbers, choose to pick, System keeps monitoring the progress on what has been picked so far. And then as you tap on drop, it's just wanting you to acknowledge what staging room, what weighing room are you going to park all these ingredients and packaging components. Dropping them is going to make that movement internally within the system. And now every raw material is in this weighing room or the staging room is going to be the staging location where the operators can source all those raw ingredients and packaging components needed throughout the day. As they begin to execute the production batches, again, the operator on that production line assigned with respective production batches can see a list of all the production batches that they are assigned with, or they can look into the list of all those, can sort it by date that they are going to execute those, scan them, and as they tap on issue, they'll be able to see the entire list of SOPs, all the ingredients, and in the same sequence as it was on your formulation. And it's wanting them to execute this entire production batch sequentially as it was defined on your formulation, with executing SOPs, reviewing these SOPs, and navigating. So this is where operator can read, perform these SOPs, and electronically sign off. And only then system will let them navigate to the next step of the process. When when the operators go through these SOPs and verifying them, electronically signing them off, system has the ability to audit all these activities by username, date, and time. Also, you can implement a secondary verifying step. And if you implement those, you'll have two more columns added to this form where it says who verified it and when it was verified by date and time. When these SOPs are all verified, performed, only then system will let you navigate to the next step of the process. And in this case, let's say as you further navigate, uh, you may want your operators to periodically collect certain data. That could be product related, that could be equipment related. And let's say if the entire manufacturing process is going to take around 4 hours to make those amount of product, you want your operators to collect the data around temperature, RPM. These are all user defined specifications, could be product or equipment related or facility related. This forms the basis of statistical process control. And you can decide the frequency that these specifications could be accounted every 30 minutes, every 1 hour, every 3 hours, depending on how long that process is. Now, I did complete some of these steps ahead of time, just for our demo, for our webinar purposes. But when the operators get to an open line item, this is where I wanted to talk about that you can also integrate our system with weighing scales. So anything, so all the ingredients that you staged in the weighing room or the staging room, it could be the box, it could be a drum, tote, pail, or a partial bag, anything that you place on your weighing scale. And these scales could be COM port scale, like serial port scales, or network scales, internet scale, something that our system can talk to. Then whatever quantity you're going to put on those scales, and these are like some examples where you can select the scale and have those uh, bags, boxes on the scale. And as you scoop out the quantity, this indicator would start to tell lower and upper control limit. You let the scale stabilize, this indicator stabilizes, and then you accept the quantity from scale into this field and eventually into this field right here for you to accept that quantity or add that quantity to the equipment basically. And then you're going to save these line items. You repeat that process for all other open line items, go through that process, and then tap once on the submit to have all these lot numbers, weight quantities into WIP, into work in process, as if everything is being mixed or in the process of making it into that equipment. And that relieves the respective quantities, lot numbers, everything into WIP. Triggering a notification to quality control users to grab the sample and get those notifications, and they can perform these transaction screens would automatically generate records that these are the production batches, the product being made, and these are all the specifications that the QC team has to perform in the QC lab. So this is something that we can cover in more deeper aspect in our quality session. But any deviations occurring during in-process quality control, those recommendations can be provided. And any add-ins that you do to your production batches, like a rework is being done on the fly, making changes to the formulation can be done. Any changes that happen or one can do on this uh, under supervision, under authorized control, system audits that with username, date, time, and then retain all that information without updating your base formulation effectively there. Now, with the QC results coming out, making changes, you can grab another sample, you can reinitiate the samples, and perform multiple sets of the samples until you get your product to that optimum quality. With that, when it comes to record what you ended up making, or even you may want to record labor time, that there were 3 people working on this production batch. One did work for 2 hours, one worked for 3 hours. Those respective labors can account for their time. All those labors and overheads will be accounted as actual labors and will be added to your production batch automatically, along with the quantities that you weighed, the lot numbers that you chose on the WMS application. Everything gets synced into actual quantity and the lot numbers that were used in those production batches. Uh, with that, when it gets to receive what you ended up making of that production batch, you navigate further to have system pre-generate a lot number. You can have system pre-generate a pallet ID as well. Let's say all these boxes cases are going on those LPN, on those license plate, acknowledging where you're receiving, amount of quantity being received, and it can pre-generate an expiration date as well, which is best by date for food products or nutraceutical products. So based on the industries, you can go ahead and configure these. And as you record these finished goods or pallet IDs, anything that you receive is subjected to be quarantined or go on QC hold until QA QC are going to release those. And until that quarantine, while it's in quarantine area, you can also set up the rules that it should be looked if it is going into your storage location, like warehouse location, should it look into empty bins or a fixed bin, like a kosher or halal area or allergen area, or any temperature controlled room, or could look into if an existing bin, full capacity bin. So you set up these rules, and system can direct those finished goods to go in a directed way, guides you. This is the location. These are the storage locations where all those finished goods needs to be staged and stored, basically. So that was all on the production execution. Now, earlier we talked about essential planning tool and sophisticated planning tool. All that information, when it gets rolled up onto a dashboard, which is like tells what equipment, what production batches are planned, what you're making, and so these are different equipments that are staged in the system, and these are different production batches, different statuses of those production batches, and then further, in order to reschedule these, set up the priorities, you can tap on this scheduling option that pulls up a view that anything that's being made on this mixer through this date and this date, help me get all the batches, where you can go ahead and reschedule, set up the sequence, set up any delays due to any downtime, record downtime as well. Or if you may want to, let's say if this mixer is breaks down halfway, you may want to override the equipment and move that production batch off to a different equipment. Then you can update those processors right off of one screen itself. So all that scheduling part can be done using the scheduling option as well. That was my overview on production execution and how it uh, syncs with quality control as well. And one another thing, this is something very unique where our system, this is something that we call super batch, is where system can vertically split the demand into different processes. So let's say if you have a demand of 800 units to make this product, like based off of a customer order, or you are making based off of forecast, our system can look into the all the operation steps of making that product, and then can split them into different batches, where it can split them based off of capacity. So it tells that I need multiple runs of apple strudel based on the capacity, two full runs and one partial run. And then it goes through apple muffin to make 4 ounces, and then eventually going into, so it can vertically split the entire operation step and create these linked batches, is what we call super batches. And these all can be individually closed. These could be parallelly closed based on what equipments you are making them. So that was all from my side. Over to you, Chirag.
Thank you, Dipesh. I think we've covered it. I think like starting from how people can use the paper batch ticket as well as how they can use it digitally if they want to. Let me share my screen. Okay, so before we open up for Q&A, I just want to take a moment just to share some information about BatchMaster. So we have been doing this for over 45 years, working exclusively with process manufacturers. We have more than 2,000 customers across 5 regulated industries. And depending on where your business is today, we have 3 ways to get you started. We have BatchMaster Web, which is our manufacturing add-on that works right on top of your financial systems like QuickBooks, Sage, or Business Central. So if you already have one of those, you don't have to rip and replace anything. Then we have BatchMaster Web ERP, which is our all-in-one ERP solution having built-in financials. So with this solution, you don't need any third-party application or a financial system, and you get one system, to manage your entire business. And for the larger, more complex operations, we do offer Batchmaster with SAP Business One. So this is primarily, useful for organizations that have, complex manufacturing and financial requirements. On a side note, we have also been, investing heavily in AI with significant developments, starting from Ask PME, which is our natural language assistant, to AI-driven forecasting and natural language, formula management. And one more thing, which is really important. So the entire implementation and support is, being handled entirely by our in-house team. There is no third-party consultants, no outsourced staff. The people, who actually build the system are the ones who can get you live and support you after that. Okay, so now I think we can open the floor for any questions you may have. Feel free to ask anything in the chat box, and we can address them one by one. I saw a few questions coming in, so probably we can pull them up. The first question is, can Batchmaster handle co-products and byproducts within the same batch job, or do those needs to be, managed separately?
Absolutely. Our system can, it can be done on one batch itself. So this is something, it's a part of configuration where you can define co-products or any ad hoc finished goods out of your processes. And along with uh, the second part of the question was also byproducts. So you can also specify, are there any waste or any byproducts making those products? And when you roll up all that information into your production batches, all those finished goods as a part of co-products will start to appear here. Let's say multiple outputs and byproducts also on one production batch. So our system is capable to support those requirements.
Okay, great. The next question is, can we create a production order directly from a sales order, or do we have to do it manually?
That's a great question. So, depending on who is the owner within and what authorizations those users have within the organization. So, when the customer service is going to input the customer order, let's say under sales orders, you have sales order entry is where the customer service users are going to interact with. And let's say if that's the same person who can or who is going to be responsible to transfer them into production batches, certainly you can provide them access to the form which is transfer SO to batches. Or this is primarily I've seen this in customers uh, or during implementation that this is more of a planning ownership. So the production users or the planners uh, having authorization to these screens to review what orders, looking into inventory availability or generate purchase requisitions, and then can make decisions to create production batches off of these forms. So it all depends on how you configure the system, what people are authorized with what specific features and functions.
Okay. Here's the next one on the page. It says, does the system support vendor tiered pricing? Uh,
Vendor tiered pricing, absolutely it does. And that's all under purchasing, uh, which is under purchasing. It's a part of master data. You set up those master data. So you could have one ingredient that you buy from different suppliers. Uh, and once you build that uh, data, that table, all those recommendations would roll up into purchasing module as well as onto MRP as well, which is our time fence planning tool for procurement, which is material requirement planning. And it can look into those tables for recommendations of that matrix, that table that you set up, and then it can recommend you what alternate vendors or what primary vendors you should be purchasing those ingredients from.
Great. I think we we have already exceeded our scheduled webinar time, but probably I can take one last question. Says,
And
can we adjust a formula pre-production, and also can we make changes once the batch is already running?
so absolutely you can. And before I answer that question, I also wanted to talk about the home page, which is the cockpit. And these are all user defined. The ones that you see here are all pre-packaged. So the overall intent is that all the transactional data that happens within this web ERP application system can translate them into these graphical representation, like graphs or KPIs and dashboards that you see right here. Uh, and over to the question that Chirag you had, or yes, you can size the formulation on the fly. Is let's say this is my R&D screen. I may formulate it for 1 pound, 1 kilogram, 1 liter, or anything like that. And then if I were to size that to X amount of batch size or X amount of quantity, I can do that. And system can scale up all these ingredients automatically. This is more on the R&D side. Now, when you have a production batch, and if you want to do the same sizing on the formulation and have system back compute what amount of finished good can be made, we already saw that capability is using sizing batch option. When you tap here, you can size your production batches also on the fly, but with a variety of different options based on availability of materials or quantity of materials or finished good that was ordered or by weight, by volume, and then back compute the amount of finished good that can be made.
Uh, there's one more question that I could see. It's related to the earlier one that we already answered. It says, uh, yeah, like our system already has the capabilities to generate purchase orders for raw materials. Can it also calculate required amounts versus vendor offered pack sizes and adjust accordingly?
Correct, absolutely. And that's what you set up the minimum order quantities or economic order quantities on the same table as, let me pull up that screen here. So this is the table that I was referring where you can maintain that the same ingredient can be purchased from different suppliers, their minimum order quantities that you specify. But what MRP does looks into what is needed, or you can have system look into the economic order quantities, and then it can recommend you either to buy that absolute number that is required on a production batch, or a forecast, or it can override that number if you want system to look into economic order quantities, and then recommends you to order that in multiples of that MOQ.
Great. I think if anybody has any more further questions, then probably, you can email us at sales@batchmaster.com. So, like I said, so if you want to learn more about, how Batchmaster can optimize your manufacturing operations and address your unique industry-specific requirements, you can always schedule a personalized deeper dive demo at batchmaster.com/request a demo, or you can, simply reach out to us directly at sales@batchmaster.com. Don't forget, to connect with us on LinkedIn and Facebook to stay updated on industry insights, upcoming events, and customer success stories. Before we wrap up, just a quick note that you're going to receive a short feedback survey within the next 24 hours. You will also, see the same survey on your screen once this webinar ends. Your input, is really valuable to us as it helps us improve future sessions and, to better serve your needs. We'll also be continuing conducting webinars to showcase, other capabilities and workflows. So look out for the registration emails in your inbox. On behalf of the entire, Batchmaster team, I would like to thank all for your time and engagement today. We hope to speak with you soon. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.